Hello everyone, it's Karen here from Stamping with Karen Spreckley. I'm back with another Monday video for you. So it's Bank Holiday Monday here in the UK. Hope you're all having a lovely time and enjoying some well-earned time off work. I'm certainly glad to be off myself. But boy, it's been really hot here in the UK, and I'm actually filming this video on Sunday evening up in a very, very hot craft room. So I'm just so glad you can't see my face because I look an absolute wreck right now. So as usual, all the products I'm using today are from Stampin' Up, and they can be purchased from Stampin' Up through me. In the description bar below you'll find a link to each of the products and also to my website, Facebook page, YouTube, you know, all those various different bits and pieces. So today's video I'm actually showing you a bit of a sneak peek. This is using the Sip SIp Hooray stamp set and coordinating dies. Now these products are going to be available to purchase from the 4th of September, so they're going to be products that are available in the new lovely autumn winter catalogue. If you don't have a copy of your autumn winter catalogue yet, please do let me know in the comments or send me an email or a message and I will get one out to you, complimentary of course. And also, if you want to make the most of the extra offer, which is only available now up until the 31st of August, you would have the opportunity of purchasing these products earlier than customers by joining Stampin' Up and making the most of the deal, which is £155 worth of product that you choose in your starter kit, and you pay only £99 for them. If you want to know more about that, please do follow the link below and head on over to my website, and there is a whole page there that gives you lots of frequently asked questions and also links to sign up if that's something you want to do. Please also email me, call me, message me if you would like to know a little bit more about that. So on with today's card. So here is a version that I've made using the stamp sets and dies, and I've made this in Melon Mambo and black, which I think is a really striking combination. I'm going to make a slightly different version for you now. I'm going to use Coastal Cabana, which is another absolutely lovely colour, one of my favourites. So the Sip SIp Hooray stamp set, it's got a few different glasses as well as some sort of watercolour wash contents for your glasses, but obviously you could colour those in yourself if you wanted to. And there's also some lovely decorative elements. We've got a little strawberry there if you're perhaps having a little strawberry daiquiri, or a couple of olives there for your martini. We've got a little citrus slice there, so obviously that could be orange or lemon or lime. A little mint sprig there for your mojitos. There's a straw there, and there's also a sprig of some description. If you know what cocktail that's for, please let me know because I haven't got a clue. I've also got a couple of nice sentiments as well, and some other little decorative bits and pieces. So that's what I'm going to be using today. I've already mounted my stamps on blocks just to make life a little bit quicker. And then here are the coordinating dies. So we've got this decorative element here, which I'm going to be using today. I'll just take that off the board. We've got a die that covers each of the glasses and also a die that covers each of the decorative elements. So really, really useful set. I'm going to take off the little martini glass and also the one for the straw, because they're the ones I'm going to be using today, and I'll just pop the rest of those out of the way. So to start with, I'm using a standard card base, so it's half a sheet of A4 cut in half and scored in half. This one just so happens to be 10th fold, but we can make it work either way. And the first job that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bubble die out of the top and the bottom of my card. So I'm just going to move the big shot over, and apologies again in advance if this ends up making the camera wobble a little bit, but I shall try and be as careful as I can. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place my card on, and I'm going to place my die across my cardstock like that. Ordinarily, with a die like this, I would like to use it in that orientation, but just because of the nature of the card that I've got today, I'm going to have to do it this way. But it doesn't really matter, it's just my preference to do it the other way. So I'm just passing this through, and I'm going to pass it back through as well because it's quite a detailed die. Off to one side I've got my bin, and I'm actually going to use the die brush. This is our old die brush, but you can actually get one now that attaches to the take your pick tool, which is really, really handy. So I'm just going to go over to one side now, and I'm going to poke out all those bits and oh, do you know, I don't think it's die cut particularly well that way. Right, I'm just going to have to pop that back in try and register that back in. Oh, I think I've got it there, and we'll just need to pass it through again. Because I'm doing it in this orientation, it hasn't cut so well, which is why it usually is my preference to go in the other direction. So let's just put it through a few times, give it the best possible chance of cutting through for us this time. And I think most of those have popped through. Do you know what? No, they're not. It's not going through particularly well in that orientation. So what I'm going to do is cut myself a new card base of basic black cardstock so that it will go through as I intended it to. So I've got myself a full sheet. See, sometimes things don't go right for us demos either. We have to go back to the drawing board. So I'm going to take a full sheet of cardstock, and I'm going to line it up at 10.5, and I'm going to use my old Stampin' Up trimmer. We don't sell these anymore, unfortunately. They were excellent trimmers, but we have got a new one on the way, I believe, by the end of the year, so that's exciting news. So half a sheet of A4, cut in half and folded in half, and we'll bring the big shot back in again, and we will try the die cutting once more, but this time we will use the die in that orientation and it will run through a lot better because I've already done it this way, so I know it works very well. I've pulled it very slightly in from the centre of the card and very slightly in from the edge of the card because I want to make sure that I'm going to have somewhere to adhere a bit of glue when the time comes. So I'm going to pull that out, and this time you can see that all of those dots have come out. So I'm just going to go over to one side and I'm going to use my die brush to poke out all those little bits from the die straight into my bin so that it will work properly again on the next pass. So now I'm just going to flip the die around. I'm going to place it just slightly away from the middle, slightly away from the edge, and just move that over slightly to make sure my card doesn't get squashed as it goes through. Lovely. And then we will pass this through the big shot. So I'm going to go all the way one way, all the way the other. I hope this isn't making you feel seasick, all this wibbling around. So now, you probably see that better now it's on the white. Now I've got almost all of my little bits and pieces have come out of my card. I've just got one or two there that haven't quite popped through, but I'll sort those out with a pokey tool in a moment. So I'm just off to the side again, cleaning my die just to make sure that it's good for the next time I want to use it. So I'm just going to grab a pokey tool now, and I'm just going to go through and pop out those last few pieces that didn't come out with the pass of the die. I'll just poke those through. Just take a few seconds just to poke those through. I think this adds a really lovely level of detail, and I think actually this would also work nicely if you were doing kind of an under the sea sort of theme, or even kind of snow. Actually it would work nicely, and obviously because we're coming up to winter now, starting to think about Christmas cards. I should be in a Christmas card making frenzy before too long. Okay, so I'm just going to scoop up all those little black bits now, pop those in my bin. Okay, so now we'll get to putting the card together. Now I wanted to be able to see some colour under here, so I've got myself a quarter sheet of cardstock, and I'm using Coastal Cabana this time. So what I want to do is I want to stick my Coastal Cabana cardstock inside so that it can be seen there. So what I'm going to do first, I just want to see how well it's lining up, because I cut a quarter sheet, but sometimes it can be a little hair too long or a little hair too wide. So I'm just going to take my trimmer again and cut it down ever so slightly. I don't know if you can see, that's the cutting line. I'm just literally going to take it across to the next little line and cut the tiniest amount of cardstock off in both directions, because I don't want it peeking out around the black of the card. So I'll just try that again now, and that should fit beautifully. There we go, all the way in, and we haven't got anything poking around. So to stick this in, I'm going to add my glue to the black piece, because if I added it to the blue piece, I don't necessarily know where the holes are. So I'm just going to carefully apply a tiny little run of Tombow glue, and then I can do a little bit more in the middle. I can go along here where I've got some little gaps of cardboard where I can add a little dot of glue, and then I can do the same at the bottom, just a little run along there, and then I can just add little dots and pieces. Now this stamp set appears in the autumn winter catalogue because it would be an excellent for sort of New Year's cards, New Year's invitations, but I think because of the cocktail glasses and the sort of alcohol reference, it's also great for making just birthday cards in general, to be honest. So I've now added my Coastal Cabana piece there. Now the next thing I wanted to do, so on my refer you back to the pink card, is I had this piece here, and I've actually used one of the stitch rectangles to make that piece. So I've got another piece of Coastal Cabana card, and what I did was I got my stitched rectangles and I just picked out the one that best suited the job that I wanted it to do, which is this one here, and I'm afraid I don't know how many from the middle or the top or whatever it is. It's just that was the one that suited me best. Now to put this through my die cutting machine, I'm going to put the card on as much of an angle as I can so that I can run the die through at an angle rather than straight on, because when you, a bit like when we did with the bubbles, when you run a die straight on, it doesn't always cut the best. So I'm just going to cut this through off camera, hopefully not quite so much wobbling for you. So I've now die cut that panel, and I just run my fingers around just to get the card through the stitching. So you can see there we've got a nice stitched panel, and that is going to fit nicely on our card just there. So the next thing I need to do now is to do a little bit of stamping. So I've got myself a scrap of Whisper White card here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the martini glass in Memento black ink, just there. I'm also going to stamp the glass on the inside, because I don't think I showed you before, but I've also created a stamped glass on the inside of this card. So I'm going to do exactly the same for this one, but I'll be colouring it up in a different way. So ink up the outline and stamp that down there. Then the next thing I'm going to do on both of these glasses is I'm going to fill them in with colour. So I'm using Coastal Cabana this time. So I've selected the image that gives me sort of the watercolour type look for the drink inside this glass. So we've got a nice kind of sea blue cocktail this time, and I can pop that away. I also need to stamp the straw on the scrap piece because we're going to die cut that out as well. So I shall stamp that going that way. And finally, using the Memento black ink, I'm going to stamp the sentiment, and the sentiment reads, hope your big day is just one happy hour after another. So obviously a bit of a drinky reference there, but also a really nice sentiment for a birthday. And I'm going to position that in the centre, but over to the right hand side, so that I can fit my glass on the left hand side, and that's quite straight, so I'm quite pleased with that. So I'll just pop these bits and pieces out of the way and bring in the dies. So I've got a little bit of Scotch removable tape here, because even though I'm going to use my magnetic plate, because these dies are quite little, I don't want them to jump around as I'm die cutting them, so I thought I'd just use a little bit of removable tape. This tape, you can get it from, I don't know, probably places like WH Smith's and Amazon and stuff. Or washi tape is another thing you can use. I'm just going to run those through my die cutting machine. I'll just do that off to the side again, because hopefully it won't jump around so much for you. So I shall just pop out the cocktail glass and pop out the straw. Just keep all my dies over to the side so that I don't lose them, ready for next time. Okay, so now it's time to put our card together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue down the back of the martini glass. I'm just going to put it sort of down up the stem and just literally in the bottom of the glass, because I want to pop it just about there. And then I want to add the tiniest little bit of glue to the bottom of my straw and smear that around so that it doesn't ooze out everywhere. And I'm just going to pop my straw in just there. Turn that over and add some dimensionals. Looks like I've used up all the whole dimensionals in here, so I'm just going to go around now and snip the edges, because the edges have got the glue on as well, so you can use those up too. No need to waste anything. So I shall put dimensionals in each of the corners, and we'll pop one in the middle so that it doesn't get squashed. I'll just take those backs off. And then I'm going to stick this to the front of the card. So I'll just line that up so that it's about equal left and right and top and bottom. And then finally, I'm just going to use a little bit of the Tombow glue to glue my inside in so that I've got space to write my message. So we'll just move that around to get that equally in place. So there we go, there's my, oh, one final thing actually. I'm going to use some of the glitter dots and I'm going to add a couple of gems to these. Now I'm just going to pick them up with my nails. I'm going to use a big one there, a medium one there, and a little tiny one there. And then that's that card all finished. So we've got a lovely Melon Mambo version and also a lovely Coastal Cabana version. And that's the lovely thing, of course, you can stamp these in any colours you want. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and I hope you enjoy the rest of your bank holiday. I'm sure I'm going to spend some of mine crafting, probably this morning before it gets too hot up there. Thank you very much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon. Thanks, bye bye.